another episode of Legion Elite Motorsports. I'm your host, Isaiah. And today we're going to check out what happened to that turbo and why it failed. So stay tuned. Let's see what happened. So let's see what happened to this turbo. And we're going to do that by taking her apart. So we're going to start by taking loose this rear housing, pretty much a adapter plate type of thing that has the wastegate on it. So there's a couple of Allen heads here, so we'll take that out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to loosen up the actual turbo. That's done by holding the rear and loosening the nut up front. Then we can take the housing off here, and then we'll take the bolts off right here. It's actually 4 of them that go all the way around here and on the bottom. And then we should be able to take the blade out, and then we're going to start taking out the bearings out of the turbo. So let's dive in. We're going to start with the rear and take it from there. Okay, well, after trying to take these 2 bolts loose and they're stripped, looks like we're going to have to go a different route. So instead of doing that, taking these off, what we're going to do is we're going to take these off, slide the back housing off, take these bolts off here, slide the front housing off, and then that should get us to the core so we can actually see what's going on. So we're going to need a 1/2 inch here, and same deal for here. Take this apart, take the wastegate off the front housing, and yep, take it from there. Alrighty, cracked all of these loose. Alright, I'm excited to see what happened here. And see what happened to this turbo. So, this one's still a little tight. There we go. Alrighty. Okay. But definitely to be expected, something that spins such a high RPM, you know, not to fail at some point. Just figured you'd get a lot more usage out of it before it quit. Oh yes, stuck on there pretty good, but you can see it's separated. So next we got one more bolt down here, and then we should be good to go. Yep, got a lot of spring tension on here. Let's pop this arm off. Okay, there we go. Usually that has a C-clip on it, but this one didn't. Some cases you can get away with that. Alrighty. Alright, so we got the wastegate. That's a good wastegate that operates properly like it should. And let's set this bad boy up. Like that. Alrighty, so we got damage on the housing, damage on the blades. We got to dig a little bit deeper to see why, but you could see it's a massive seal failure for one. These do have seals to keep the oil from seeping out of the front shaft. And even with it off, it's still hard to turn. And it's actually not turning at all. So, all right, so we got that part out. Next, what I want to do is I want to release it from this rear housing. So we're going to use the same tool, pop those loose, and take it from there. So let me pop those loose and we'll be right back. Okay, so let's take this one here loose. Now, of course, we won't be able to get all of these out because some of them are in the way of the housing. So we're going to have to two-hand it, which means I will be back to two-hand it. But other than that, we should get pretty far. Oh, same with this one, hitting the housing. All right, let's turn it and keep going. So there we go. But yeah, I think the combination of this turbo in its factory operating form, or better operating form, it could have been real nice. Could have hopefully got a little bit more longevity out of it. So, all right. There we go. So basically, all right, now we're touching housing here, but this should be loose enough for us to pop this back a little bit and keep loosening the bolts. So we're gonna do that and take it from there. So I'll be right back. All right, so after all of those bolts are loose, it comes off the back of here, and this is technically the core right here. And then in some applications, even including this one, you can choose your housings, especially if they have that type of thing available. And because the inner diameter, it has to be for this specific center core. So in this application, this one is all frozen. Even with it disconnected, it's still very solid. So hopefully we can get this taken apart because it's frozen in the middle and not moving at all. It might be a little hard to take these pieces apart. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this screw loose on the nose of the shaft, the intake side, cold side, and then hopefully I can take the shaft out. So how this works is this is a T3, T4 turbo. T3 is the bolt pattern that is very close together in a smaller housing, and then the face housing is usually the bigger half. You could tell by the blades. Small blades in the back, big blades in the front. Pretty common. So next thing we want to do is that. So let me get the tool for that. Take this piece off and take it from there. Okay, so when it comes to taking this nut off, it is a 12.11 millimeter. This is mainly a common size, especially for T3, T4 applications. So, and besides that, this is counterclockwise. So lefty loosey to tighty, actually, and righty tighty to loosey. So this is reverse thread. So see, we're going tighty, which is to the right, and that's actually loosening. So note to self, that is very important. And then that comes off just like that. But what we're gonna wanna do is we're actually gonna wanna put it on a couple threads because we're gonna have to bump the shaft to get it out. Hopefully it actually does come out because the turbo was stuck until I hit it with impact gun to loosen the nut, and then it started turning. So yeah, so it should come out fairly easy, but yeah, we're gonna give this a couple taps and it's gonna knock the rear shaft out, and then we should be able to pull the front impeller off. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so took the shaft out, which is this guy here. And this piece here, that's the bolt to that. So in the middle of tapping this shaft out here, I noticed something had fell out of the turbo. And these are actually an older style roller bearing that just fell out of the return line. So I definitely need to make sure that I count all of these bearings, make sure all of them are here, which it does look like they are all here, and didn't make its way to the oil pan, and kind of take it from there. But yeah, I'm starting to see some failure points. So next, what we're gonna do to get further into the center cartridge is we're gonna take these bolts off on the side here, which are 10 millimeter. And we're going to get to the first seal, which there's one for this one in the front here. So you get those 10 millimeters off and we will take it from there. Okay, so we got the screws out. Sorry about the noise in the background. It is just crazy hot here in this garage currently. Okay, so this is the oiling bearing, which did a good job. Alrighty. And then these are pretty rough, and this is shrapnel. Oh yeah, that's stuck in here. Okay, there you can see. This thing is supposed to spin freely, and it's not. So, yeah, it's starting to paint a pretty interesting picture. All right, and then on this side, this is a thrust bearing for in and out play. So basically we're gonna take this off and we're gonna see if we can get the inner cartridge, which actually hold the bearings, out. Hopefully we can. If not, we'll be able to look inside there. So, yep, so we got shrapnel on this guy sticking out right here. And yep, I could kind of see how it failed. And then this part has a seal that keeps the oil from coming out, and this seal is super flat, so that's not gonna seal much that way. And you can see all of the bits of shrapnel, so we might have a crushed bearing maybe. Yeah, something crushed, but it's gonna make more sense as soon as we get this bad boy open. All right, so let's do that. So we have some Allen keys here. Take off the thrust bearing, and then hopefully you can take a look deeper inside. All right, so I'll be back. But before we take this case off the thrust washer, I forgot to remove this bearing and see what it looks like. I actually removed it off camera, and you can see it is rough. So this part here actually is supposed to be a C-clip. The C-clip locks into this collar. So let's take a look at this. And as you see, let me see if you can see, it destroyed itself, literally. So yep, so it ate itself alive, basically. Don't know if it's due to lack of lubrication. All this stuff seems to be very wet, but it could be one of the bearings actually crushed itself. We actually only brought this turbo up to about, I'd say 20 PSI, right around there, 20 to 24 PSI. And I know this turbo is rated for a lot more than that, but just couldn't handle it. I mean, yeah. So this thing is extremely rough. It's supposed to be smooth. That is supposed to be a machine surface, but no good, no good, no good. See, the C-clip is all chewed up. Some of it's sticking out there, and then some of it is compressed. So yeah, now we can take the thrust washer off and see what else is cooking. Okay, so as you can see, the thrust washer does not look too terrible. Looks like it had good oil flow, a little bit of wear and tear. I'm pretty sure this part here is due to its nearing its end of its life. And then, see if I can, there we go. Everything looks pretty normal here. All right. And then in here is supposed to be the bearings. I see one, but I don't see the other. So let's get some light on the subject and take a deep look. So we took this cover out, and then this piece out, which goes over the ball bearing set, pretty much like that. And then there's an inner race, which I haven't found yet, but let's take a deeper look inside. Let's see what we can find. So there you can see the bearing in the rear, right? So just like I said, this goes here, right? Then this piece goes inside that. You see the bronze, and then there's an inner race, which is this silver piece right there. That inner race is gone. So we take this back out for a second. See if we can get this kind of come out a little bit, which we might be able to. So let me get some tools on this and see what's what. So using the shaft, I was able to push the inner race out from the rear and back to the front, so you can see the destruction and carnage. Let me get some light on it. So it looks like the bearings crushed themselves inside the inner and outer race, and this is what all of this here is. So, failed bearings. Let me see if I can get this out. Okay, and as you can see from all of the shrapnel, yep, these are melted bearings, crushed. So the inner race holds the shaft, so the more boost you run, the harder it presses against those ball bearings, and yeah, it failed. So this goes into here with those bearings. So this is the old style of ball bearing, and that might have a lot to do with why it failed, but you know, there are signs for this. Instead of a smooth sweep of boost, which is a whoosh sound, this one had kind of a like a weird buzzing noise as it's trying to boost, which is a sign that yep, something was failing. You know, it's not one of those cases and scenarios where Up, something doesn't sound right with my turbo, let me go fix it. That'll probably end up costing more than just replacing it. But bearing failure is the cause for this one. So yeah, that's it. And with that, we're gonna call it an episode right there. I hope you found it entertaining and informative. And remember, guys, knowledge is power, and I will see you guys on the next episode where we will be installing that turbo manifold and doing the downpipe and all of those other goodies. I was just curious to see, why it failed. So I'll see you guys next time.